Hello, Father Sean, and hello, John.
Oliver.
Now, so today we're discussing arson attacks on churches and mosques in Ireland and Northern Ireland also over the last 5 years. There have been at least 11 arson fires in active places of worship, nine churches and two mosques or prayer halls. These attacks damage more than buildings. They affect the community's safety and the right to worship in peace. So my first question is for John Malone. John, what do you think is going on in society when we see churches and mosques being burned?
The first thing is that people that do such a thing are suffering from anger, uncontrolled anger, and animosity towards um, churches and mosques, because these are places where, especially churches, where people worship and say prayers and go to mass and that. So they have a hatred, and they might be stray or possessed in some way, that they see fit to destroy or try to destroy these churches. And in some cases, they succeed, not just in this country, but I know in France, quite a few churches are destroyed, and they're under the control of the French government. That's the situation there. It's not the local people that are in the Catholic Church that look after the repairs, and that is the state. And so they mustn't be guarding them properly when so many are destroyed in that country, which was a cradle of the Catholic faith, the same as Ireland is the cradle of the Catholic faith. And to think that people do such a thing is terrible. And one wonders, is there any prosecutions? Are these people able to be apprehended to see what they do, or is it something that they're not, that the state and the police have no information on, or what? Do you know anything about that, or has anybody ever prosecuted for such crimes?
Well, I know with the attack yesterday in Talbot Street, there's a man, I think he's in his 40s, he's been arrested. And as far as I know, and I could be wrong, as far as I know, he's a foreign national or has been a foreign national, or he didn't, I seen a video where he's shouting and he didn't sound Irish. But anyway, that's what's happening there. Father Sean, what does it say about society when we see churches and mosques being burned?
I mean, it shows that there's a lot of anger in society. It shows that there's a lot of mental illness in society. It shows that there's a lot of hate in society. But ultimately, the basic thing is anger. But I mean, there's a lot involved. There's ideologies where people will do anything to support that ideology, and especially try to eliminate those who oppose it. Then there's a psychological basis for it. There's a lot of psychosis, I think, in our society today, that's actually untreated. Also, of course, classes, between religions is as old as Cain and Abel, and you have some religions where there's absolutely no tolerance whatsoever, for others, and so that's a motivation. Then you have just people who are just terrorists, who are extremists, and you see churches, places of worship, are kind of easy targets because they also evoke a lot of prejudice. They evoke a lot of anger. They evoke a lot of hatred because basically religious sites are places that uphold. I mean, they're open to receiving anybody who wishes to believe in it, and so as a result of that, then other groups that are intolerant, they try to eliminate it. Then there are people who are atheistic, who don't believe in anything, and ultimately, it's a psychological problem, but it's also a moral problem. It shows, you see, that the whole reality of sin has been buried underground and not been addressed. And if it's not addressed, then it's going to express itself. And it does, I think, in attacking the symbols actually of God's presence, the symbols of peace, the symbols of a challenge to human beings to reform their lives. So there are various reasons. Also, I do think that the society itself makes a difference because it seems to me one of the things that I've noticed in Ireland, for example, is that people allow themselves to be controlled very easily. They don't really seem to want to get involved, and then I don't know what the mentality is. The whole idea, of a good citizen is always looking out for the city, always looking out for the community and whatnot. That doesn't seem to be here. The political situation also contributes to it, as we refer to later on. But I think religion has always been a target, always, because of what it stands for. It stands for something. And if it's a true religion, then it doesn't bend. And then you have those people who try to control the religion. And if they can't control it, then they will try to eliminate it. And that becomes a reality. But I mean, a lot of these attacks are not from groups, they're really from individuals. And I think many of these individuals are suffering psychologically, emotionally, and so on.
Okay.
And I don't think the mental ill health in this country is really being addressed at all. And it
John,
expresses itself in being anti-God, anti-religion, anti-family, anti-life. And it's rampant here in this country.
okay, thank you very much, Father Sean. So John, 11 arson fires in churches and mosques. I mean, in Northern Ireland also. I mean, like in the years gone by, you had like sectarian stuff going on in the north of Ireland. You had the Protestants and the Catholics, and they burning each other out of it. And but like 11, like to include the mosque yesterday, in the last 5 years, it seems fairly high, doesn't it?
What did you say, in about 5 years?
I'm just saying like that there's 11 arson fires at active churches and mosques. These are active, like these are not derelict buildings.
Right, and we don't know. Is it orchestrated? Is it individuals suffer from some psychological problems? It would be very good if the authorities were able to find out and investigate the people that do that, and they must have some idea of who does these things and be arrested. You were saying that some foreign individual in the 40s was responsible for in the mosque in Talbot Street, and that's the most recent. But what about all these other ones that occurred over the past 4 or 5 years or whatever it is? I don't ever remember anything of that caliber growing up or what have you. It seems that the country now, because of the changes we say in the Catholic faith from the way it was in my young days in churches packed in vocations, that it's now a priest is on his own in a parish and maybe has to look after another parish, two parishes. And so it's a lonely sort of a task that the priest has. He hasn't got companions the way they had years ago to be able to share experiences and so on and so forth. So these are factors that are affecting the practice of the Catholic faith. And there's a lot of lapsed Catholics. Churches are kind of half empty, and some of them have to be supported in Dublin by what they call the share collection, which is to help those churches that haven't enough support from the congregation. So, and church is closed. So it's a very tricky situation to know as to how these arson attacks occur, and that the authorities charged with guarding property and churches especially, that they should be able to be find out who is involved and be charged. And from what I think, the only one that has been charged is this recent one with the mosque in Talbot Street. So what's the point of having police and authorities that they can't arrest people that cause such outrage in a church where we have the Blessed Sacrament in Catholic churches. I presume it's Catholic churches. I'm not aware of any Protestant churches being attacked. It's either mosques or Catholic churches.
Yeah, I think look, when myself and yourself done a video a couple of years ago, and we were very concerned at the time about Talbot Street, and we were saying also that people were complaining at the time that there was a mosque on Talbot Street, and we were saying that it's better to have any kind of a religion on a street rather than no religion. But it's gone.
Yes,
It's become a funny old street, Talbot Street. It was always a very vibrant street. It was always a great street to have a shop on it. My friend had a shop there for 20, 30 years, and he made a fine bit of money on it. It's a great trading street because it's on the way down to Connolly Station. But
that's
unfortunately,
right.
it's become a troubled street, and we were saying send in the sociologists. I remember we were saying at the time, but unfortunately, things have you know turned out not too good.
Correct.
So, anyways, so I'll move on there to Father Sean. Father Sean, what are some of the reasons you think these fires happen? What would you say is behind it? Is it hate, racism? Is it it's
Well, I mean, look, they're umpteen. There are various reasons, obviously. There's hate, there's bigotry, there's religious intolerance. Then you have people who are mentally ill, they're pyromaniacs. There's mental illness, there's psychological issues, there are people who are venting. Then you have the social media and you have the regular media. The fact is that in the world today, the Catholic Church is the most persecuted group in the whole world. Why? Because, as John was pointing out there, the Catholic Church was the only counter-cultural voice that challenged a worldly outlook, that challenged disrespect for life, that challenged atheism, that challenged immorality, and so on. And, as a result of that, then the Catholic Church, of course, was a target for anybody who wanted to shut her down. And she has many, many enemies, and many, many governments would love to shut down the Catholic Church. In this country, actually, the media itself has certainly not been friendly to the Catholic Church. It's interesting in a way that it's the burning of the mosque that has really made the media that's really
yes,
come to the fore. You hear little and nothing, about the way that Catholicism was treated. I just saw a blog today, actually, here in Ireland, where the author was talking about Archbishop Cullen, Archbishop what's his name, McQuaid, and De Valera, and the title was, did they create Ireland out of fear, to be fearful, and should they be treated as villains? So the media, by having a negative attitude toward the Catholic Church, is actually setting up the Catholic Church as a target for many people who have a beef with the church. I mean, I met somebody there the other day who was saying to me, well, when I was growing up, as a youngster, the church was all about rules. You couldn't do this, you couldn't do that, you couldn't do the other thing. So I said, did the obeying of those rules make you less human? Did they make you less charitable? Did they make you less of a good neighbor? No, but these people, they blame everybody except themselves. So there was Father Mark Quinn, actually, in Galway, who called upon the church, the government, and the media to stop having a negative attitude toward the church, because he was talking about suicide, and that the fact is that the church would be the only organization who could offer any hope to somebody who is in a dark place in their lives. So I would say actually the media really has to take responsibility. Also, I think too that the church herself doesn't speak up, and Catholics don't speak up for their church. Sometimes I think Catholics are the biggest hypocrites in the world because they don't really stand up for the faith. They just hang their heads and walk away. And that's not the way you address a country that has lost her religion. She's lost her sovereignty. She's lost her identity. She's lost her way. And the only hope for the country is Jesus Christ. The only hope for the country is to have a sense of faith, because from faith comes hope, and from faith and hope comes charity. So yeah, there's hate, there's bigotry, there's intolerance. And it's ironic, today where there's a big emphasis on tolerance. But the very people who preach tolerance are oftentimes the most intolerant. There's also a mentality today that I have my own truth, I have my own moral standard. So if I don't like something now, I can get rid of it. So the whole notion of justice is out the window. And like when people desecrate a church or a place of religion, I mean, that punishment should really be severe, because they're actually hitting at the heart of a significant number of people, and ultimately they're trying to impose their own will on others, and that should be stopped, because people can be killed, people can be destroyed. So I would say that first of all, the bishops need to stand up and really confront all this anti-Catholicism, anti-religion, anti-life, and so on and so
Mm.
forth. Because if you don't stand up for yourself, then people will stand on you and on top of you,
Very
and that's the
true.
problem. And I think the society is allowing these people, these ideologues, to impose their distorted and unhealthy views on everybody else. And then when somebody dies, everybody is hurt. That people are wringing their hands, but it's too late then. It's too late.
Yeah, John.
So
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, further.
I just want to say too that Ireland actually, and I said this before, is actually a sick little country. It's a sick little country, and I don't think the people in it realize it.
Okay.
And
Uh,
that sickness manifests itself by being anti-God, anti-religion, anti-peace, anti-life.
mhm. So, John, there were more churches than mosques attacked in the last couple of years, and Father Sheehy made a very good point there. Okay, that it's when the mosque is set on fire that there's complete furore in the media. What are your opinions on that? For example, I'll give you an example, okay? I wanted the video to be about Ireland, but I'll just give you a figure which was alarming in Europe. Over the last 5 years, 400 Christian churches, there has been arson attacks on them in Europe. That's shocking.
And the majority of those are Catholic.
Yeah, I just want to go over to John here now. So, and the majority of those are Catholic. So, what do you think, John?
And that's a disgrace, and the authorities and the people responsible for law and order should be far more vigilant. But then, of course, if they're secular, perhaps they it's not up on their priority list of priorities. I think the example of the state here doing away with just 3 day wait for these poor women that want to kill their babies immediately. 3 days is not enough, as we're talking about. So, with that kind of a culture in the background, it nearly encourages this attitude, this anti-Catholic Catholic attitude, and they want to be Catholic churches might need to be guarded, the same as the mosque, the same as synagogues have to be guarded now in the United States, because there's these people that seem to hate Jewish people, and at the same time hate Catholics. So we have an influx here as well of people that we don't know, quite frankly, what they stand for whatsoever. There's so many, and we see some Indian ones at mass, but it's a little disturbing to think that we have a media that seems to be anti-Catholic, in my view, and we have a shortage of priests in churches because of the changes made. And so there isn't a vibrant Christian Catholic community that we had in my young days and part of Sean's young days. Churches packed in plenty of occasions. So all these things and the lack of people now going to mass and disturbed and wanting to do their own thing, and then being encouraged to do their own thing by the secular media, it doesn't augur too well in many ways for the protection of Catholic churches. And this disturbing factor that so many have been attacked and vandalized, and maybe lucky that they weren't burned completely because of safety factors and perhaps extinguishers and whatever that happened at church, and they're able to maybe have some way of dealing with it. But it's a very disturbing agenda, and I think this is how important it is for the Christian TV Ireland project when we have a TV station to articulate these in a more wider context and to try and save as many lapsed Catholics for to save their immortal souls and so on and so forth, and to stand firm and square for the safety of Catholic churches. Because if that many has been attacked in the past 5 years, it doesn't augur too well even in the future because of the amount of people that are not practicing the Catholic faith and might have an animosity towards it, for all we know, and it could be psychological, but it could be also something else, just wickedness of one kind or another.
I have been observing John Father Sheehy made a very, very good point there about social media and its role. I've observed over the last couple of weeks on social media that social media is so divisive, and the videos coming out about even Christians, about mosques, about Islam. We got the other day there was three men, I think they were in the Phoenix Poppentry Park or the Phoenix Park, and an Irishman. They were doing some charity run or something, and an Irishman hit some one or two of them a box. You know, these attacks are happening now. So there's a kind of a divisional society is happening right before our eyes. But social media, maybe there's something that could be done there, John, on social media. They should clamp down on hate.
I think so, but will they be fit to do it because their policies are against actually what I call decency and the Catholic ethos. It's quite the reverse, and I don't know how they can do it in a country that was 98% practicing Catholics, and how they can do what they're doing, and that they're in some ways, I think they're excommunicating themselves with the policies that they adopt. You can't do what they're doing and think that you can practice your Catholic faith in any shape, way, or form because you're doing quite evil. And and you're affecting a vast number of people as well with their policies. And it's a very discouraging factor. And this is so important for our project for the Christian TV Ireland to have when we have the charity license and we have a TV station, will be a beacon of hope for Catholics that are under attack.
Very good. Thank you very much, John.
Yeah.
Father Sean, what can be done to stop these attacks? As we mentioned, we've become a kind of or we're becoming more and more divisive on social media. You mentioned already. What would you do? What do you recommend could be done?
I do think that just looking at the whole country, that a large percentage of all this stuff that's taken place only started actually when the government came up with this policy of almost open borders and people coming into the country without any say so on the part of the citizens. I think many Irish people actually feel like that the government has imposed stuff on them, has imposed people on them whose culture is completely different to the Irish culture. Now that doesn't mean that somebody shouldn't come to this country, but if they came to this country, then they should adapt completely to the Irish culture, take on the Irish values and so on. But that was not expected. I think any time that something is imposed on you, you're either going to do one or two things. You're going to react aggressively, or you're just going to bow your head and be submissive. I do think that a lot of the unrest in this country is due to the fact that people feel like the government is making decisions without any consultation with the people. The government is supposed to be representing the people. They're not an entity to themselves. They're not kings. They're not supposed to be dictators. I think that's part of it. I think also uh, the attempts on the part of the government, like this whole bit about hate speech and so on. That's a very dicey situation because who is going to decide what is hate? I mean, when I was growing up, for example, you know, between Kerry and Cork in sports, the Kerry people would slag the Cork people, the Cork people would slag the Kerry people. Nobody took offense at it uh, at all. But you see, now we live in a at a time and in a culture where if you say anything now, anyway, that's interpreted negatively, is taken as an offense, and an offense then generates a retaliation. I think that's what's happening. So what do we need? Well, first of all, we need a government that is in direct contact with the people before making any decisions regarding the impact on society as a whole. Because the whole migration thing has had a huge impact on society. It's taken away people's feeling of safety. It's a threat to jobs sometimes. It's actually turning villages, changing the culture of villages, and so on. That's not right. I think that breeds anger, and anger, if it's not directed constructively, it'll seek an outlet destructively. I think also, the church, in terms of labeling people as racists, again, labeling is destructive because people resent being labeled. They resent being put in a box. Human beings are human beings. I think the church needs to start preaching morality, uh, calling all Catholics to understand what it means to be a citizen, what their civil duty is, and also, to respect people's freedom. Um, but above all, I think our educational institutions seem to be more geared toward promoting ideologies than preaching Christian morality. I mean, Christian morality is based on the Ten Commandments, and even the Quran, And I mean, Islam is diametrically opposed to Christianity, but it still recognizes the commandments. So that's a common moral background that everybody understands and respects. So I think that the church herself, the Catholic Church herself, the leadership needs to start teaching people, and also that violence is not the answer to anything. And the fact is that we need to understand that we all share the same humanity. I mean, Jesus said you must love your enemies. We all share the same humanity. So what I do to my humanity face, and some guy comes up and hits them. I mean, that is actually
Yeah. Sorry, Father, we lost you there for a minute. Go ahead.
Okay, the humanity actually has been disrespected, and that has actually been highlighted when you have the government legalizing and saying that two men now can be married, two women can be married. You can change your biology from one thing to another. That's an insult to humanity. So humanity is being disrespected. So if I don't respect humanity, then I won't respect you. And if you don't respect humanity, you won't respect me. So there's a serious disrespect for humanity, and that's expressed in how people react towards each other, through violence, because violence totally undermines the dignity of the human person. And so I think there is a real need to highlight the fact we all share the same humanity. We're all created by God, and He created us all for Himself. And so, regardless, even if we have different beliefs, God doesn't change His motivation. God doesn't change the destiny that He has created all of us for. So, we need to highlight that. And I think if we did, then we would really have a real sense of mutual respect for one another. And then we'd be able to sit down and debate one another's beliefs, debate one another's opinions, debate, what one another sees as the truth without feeling offended or without being canceling one another, whatever it is. So I think that's the root cause of it, a total disrespect for humanity. And we see suicide on the rise. We see violence on the rise. We see biological blurring between man and woman on the rise. We see people who are depressed, who are lonely. All of that has a spiritual cause. Every bit of it has a spiritual cause. And every bit of it has to do with the fact that we don't respect humanity as created by God, and that we all actually have an impact on one another's humanity. And the moment I realize that I'm impacting your humanity, and that has an adverse effect on mine, that's the moment I'm going to change and say, if I want to respect my humanity, I must respect yours too.
Okay. I just want to, John, take me to church. Do you think that would solve the problem in society if we all get into the church? Father Sean is saying there that
Correct, correct,
church, yeah.
correct, and right. Going to mass is a great gift. At least once a week. At least once a week on a Sunday, or the vigil mass on Saturday, which is now, which is your obligation, the least obligation. But then during the day, your prayers and all the rest of it, and pray for peace. And once you have that in your heart and soul, then those that you come in contact, it becomes obvious when you meet a person that has sort of a spiritual foundation to their lives. You know it when you go into a home. You know it. If you go into a home and you don't see a holy picture or a cross or nothing, well, then you can kind of know that somehow or other there's a lack of Christian ethos in that particular place, and you get these bad feelings. But in any event, I find that when you do as much good as you can yourself, and whatever chance you have, and preach the good news, and do the videos that I do, and hymns and all the rest of it, and people are yearning for that, and all over the world, as far as I can see,
We're
with the
just
people that follow what I do, and follow our videos down the years. And so when you come out with the good news, and Jesus, the way, the truth, and the life, and the great gift of practicing your Catholic
we're just
faith,
out of time, John.
um,
We're just out of time. So
out of
we're just out of
time
time.
out.
Yes. So Father, can you just give us your blessing there, please?
The Lord be with you. May Almighty God bless you, the Father, Son, and Holy
The
Spirit,
Father, and the
descend
Son,
on
and the
you and
Holy
remain with you
Spirit.
forever.
Amen.
I just want to say the further that the creature moves from the Creator, the more the creature loses his or her identity.
Excellent way to finish. Thank you very much to both of you. Good night.
Thank
Thank
you very
you. Good
much,
night.
Oliver.